The invitation arrived in a cream-colored envelope with gold lettering. Nia Bennett stared at it for nearly a minute before opening it. She already knew who it was from. There were some names you recognized before you saw them. Marcus Bennett was one of them. Her ex-husband had been out of her life for 11 months. 11 months since the divorce. 11 months since the last argument in their kitchen. 11 months since Marcus had looked at the woman he'd once promised to grow old with and said the sentence that stayed with her longer than the marriage itself. You were never built for the life I want. Nia had not cried when he said it. She had cried afterward. Alone. In the driver's seat of her car, parked 3 blocks from their old house. Now she unfolded the invitation. Marcus Bennett and Talia Reed. Request the honor of your presence as we celebrate our engagement. Nia's eyes moved lower. Then she saw the handwritten note. I hope you can make it. It would mean a lot to me. She recognized Marcus's handwriting, but there was another sentence beneath it. Don't worry. We won't make you sit too close to the happy couple. Nia read it twice. Then she laughed. Not because it was funny. Because sometimes laughter was the only thing left when disappointment had already exhausted every other emotion. She placed the invitation on her desk. Across the room, a wall of glass overlooked a private airfield outside Charlotte, North Carolina. Beyond the glass sat 2 aircraft belonging to Bennett Aviation Logistics. One was a mid-sized jet. The other was a smaller aircraft used for urgent medical cargo. Neither carried Marcus's name. Neither carried her father's name. They carried hers. Nia picked up her phone. Cancel my afternoon meetings. Her assistant, Denise, looked through the office doorway. All of them? All of them. Is everything okay? Nia looked again at the invitation. Yes. Then she smiled faintly. I'm going to an engagement party. Marcus had been waiting almost a year for this moment. Not the engagement, the humiliation. The engagement itself had been real. He loved Talia, or at least he believed he did. But somewhere inside Marcus, there was still an unfinished argument with Nia. He had spent months telling people that the divorce had been mutual, that they had simply grown apart, that Nia had become obsessed with work, that she had changed. What he never told anyone was that Nia had been the one who changed first. She had stopped apologizing, stopped asking permission, stopped explaining why she needed time for her own dreams. And Marcus had hated the version of her that no longer needed his approval. His engagement party was being held at a private aviation estate outside the city. The location had been Talia's idea. The guest list was large. Business associates, family, friends, people from Marcus's company, people from Marcus's company, people from Marcus's company, people from Marcus's company. And, according to Marcus, one very important guest, Nia. He stood near the entrance that afternoon, adjusting his cufflinks. Talia walked toward him. You're checking the driveway again. Marcus glanced over. I'm making sure everything is ready. You've checked it 6 times. He smiled. Have I? Yes. Talia studied him. Are you nervous? Marcus laughed. About my engagement party? No. She lowered her voice. About Nia coming. His smile disappeared for half a second, then returned. Nia doesn't matter anymore. Talia didn't answer. Marcus looked toward the entrance. She'll come, he said. People like her always do. What does that mean? Nothing. You said that strangely. Marcus leaned closer. She'll see what she lost. Talia stared at him. And what exactly did she lose? Marcus smiled. Me. Talia's expression didn't change. But something in her eyes did. Nia had not told anyone she was going. Not her sister. Not her mother. Not Denise. She didn't want advice. She didn't want anyone telling her to stay home. And she didn't want anyone assuming she was going because she still loved Marcus. She was going because she had spent too many years avoiding rooms where people had decided who she was. She was done avoiding them. At 5:12 p.m., Nia stepped onto the runway. Her pilot was already waiting. Miss Bennett, everything is ready. Nia nodded. Thank you, Charles. He glanced at the invitation in her hand. Business trip? She looked at it. No. Then she smiled. something stranger. The jet lifted into the evening sky less than 20 minutes later. Before we move further into the story, I need you to tell me something. Where are you watching from? If you like stories like this, make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you would love to hear. Now, back to Nia. The engagement party was already underway when Marcus received the call. Sir? Marcus stepped away from the crowd. What is it? The event coordinator looked nervous. There's an aircraft approaching. Marcus frowned. So? It's requesting landing clearance. Who is it? The coordinator swallowed. Bennett Aviation. Marcus's expression changed. That company? Yes. Marcus stared at him. Why would they be landing here? I don't know. Marcus looked toward the runway. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then a white aircraft appeared in the distance. It moved silently across the blue evening sky. People began turning. Conversations stopped. Someone near the bar whispered, "Is that a private jet?" Another guest lifted a phone. Marcus didn't move. The aircraft descended. The landing lights came on. The party fell almost completely silent. Talia stepped beside Marcus. What is happening? He didn't answer. The jet touched down smoothly. Its wheels met the runway. The aircraft slowed, and then Marcus saw the logo on the tail. Bennett Aviation. His face went pale. Talia looked at him. Marcus? He finally spoke. That isn't mine. The aircraft rolled toward the private terminal. The guests followed it with their eyes. A few people started whispering. Who owns Bennett Aviation? I thought that was a major logistics company. Isn't it the one that handles medical transport? Marcus's jaw tightened. He knew the answer. He just didn't want to say it. The aircraft stopped. The stairs lowered. A crew member stepped out. Then another. And finally, Nia appeared. She wasn't dressed like someone arriving to beg for attention. She walked down the stairs calmly. She carried a small silver handbag. Her expression was peaceful. Almost amused, the guests stared. Marcus stared. Talia stared. Nia reached the ground. Then she looked directly at Marcus. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Marcus finally managed, Nia? She smiled. Hello, Marcus. He looked behind her at the aircraft, then back at her. You own that? Nia tilted her head. You never asked. A few guests exchanged glances. Marcus laughed awkwardly. You're flying around in a private jet now? Nia didn't answer immediately. She simply looked at him. Apparently, the laughter around them died before it could begin. Marcus's face hardened. You planned this? No. You expect me to believe that? Nia looked toward the runway. I was invited. You came here in that? I had somewhere to be afterward. Marcus looked at the guests, then back at her. So this is what you wanted? What? To show everyone you've made money. Nia smiled faintly. Marcus, if I wanted to show everyone how much money I had, I wouldn't have waited until your engagement party. Someone behind them quietly laughed. Marcus heard it. His face reddened. Talia stepped forward. Nia. Nia turned. Talia extended her hand. I'm Talia. I know. Talia hesitated. Then Nia shook her hand. There was something strange about the woman's expression. Not jealousy, not hostility, concern. Talia leaned closer. Can I speak with you privately? Marcus immediately interrupted. Talia, there's no reason. Actually, Talia said, still looking at Nia, there is. Marcus stared at his fiancée. Nia noticed the tension. What is this about? Talia looked toward the building. Not here. Marcus's voice became sharper. We're not doing this tonight. Talia finally looked at him. Then perhaps you should have told me the truth before tonight. Marcus went silent. Nia's eyes narrowed. What truth? Talia didn't answer. Instead, she said, I need you to see something. They walked inside. The party continued around them, but everyone was watching. Marcus followed several steps behind. His mother, Evelyn, approached. What is happening? Marcus whispered. Nothing. Evelyn looked past him. Then she saw Nia. Her face changed. Nia. Nia stopped. Mrs. Bennet. Evelyn's eyes moved toward the windows. She saw the jet. Then she looked back at Nia. You came. Yes. Evelyn swallowed. I didn't think you would. Nia smiled politely. Neither did Marcus. Marcus looked away. Talia led Nia down a hallway. At the end was a small private office. She opened the door. Inside was a desk, a filing cabinet, and on the desk was a thick brown envelope. Nia stopped. What is that? Talia closed the door. It came to me 3 weeks ago. From who? Your ex-husband's father. Nia stared at her. Marcus's father has been dead for 6 years. I know. Talia opened the envelope. There was no letter. She pulled out several documents. Nia stepped closer. The first page contained a familiar name, Bennett Family Holdings. Nia's heart beat faster. She knew the company. Marcus had spoken about it countless times during their marriage. It had belonged to his grandfather, then his father. Marcus had inherited control after his father's death, but Nia had never been involved. Or so she thought. Talia handed her another document. Read the second page. Nia did. Her eyes stopped. At the bottom was her signature. She frowned. I didn't sign this. Talia's face was serious. I know. Nia looked up. What is it? An ownership transfer. Of what? Talia hesitated. Bennett Family Holdings. Nia stared at her. That makes no sense. It gets worse. Talia handed her another page. This was filed 9 months before your divorce. Nia's fingers tightened around the paper. 9 months. She remembered that period. Marcus had been distant. He had suddenly become obsessed with paperwork. He told her the company was reorganizing. He asked her to sign several documents. She had trusted him, or perhaps she had simply been too tired to question him. What exactly am I looking at? Talia took a breath. Your signature was used to transfer something you didn't know you owned. Nia looked at the document again, then at Talia. What did I own? Talia's voice became quiet. 32% of Bennett Family Holdings. Nia stopped breathing for a moment. Outside, music played. People laughed. Glasses clinked. But inside the room, everything had become painfully still. 32%? Yes. Why? That is what I've been trying to understand. Nia shook her head. No. Marcus inherited that company. That is what he told everyone. Nia looked at her. What are you saying? Talia opened another folder. I'm saying Marcus didn't inherit the company the way you think he did. Nia stared at the documents. Then who did? Talia's eyes filled with uncertainty. Your father. Nia's face went blank. My father died when I was 12. I know. He never had anything to do with Bennett Family Holdings. Talia shook her head. That is what everyone told you. Nia slowly sat down. Her father's face appeared in her memory. A man who had repaired aircraft engines at a small regional airport. A man who came home smelling like metal and machine oil. A man who never talked about money. A man who had left Nia one old brass key when he died. She had kept that key for 24 years. She had never known what it opened. Talia sat across from her. Your father wasn't just an employee. Nia whispered. What was he? Before Talia could answer, the office door opened. Marcus stood there. His face was no longer angry. He looked frightened. Nia. She slowly stood. What did you do? Marcus looked at Talia. You weren't supposed to tell her. Nia's voice was quiet. What did you do, Marcus? He rubbed his forehead. I didn't know everything. You knew enough. No, you knew about the documents. Marcus said nothing. Nia stepped toward him. You knew I had ownership. I knew there was something. Something? Marcus looked away. Your father left a trust. Nia stared at him. What kind of trust? Marcus swallowed. One that could have changed everything. And you hid it. I was trying to protect the company. No. Nia shook her head. You were trying to protect yourself. Marcus looked at her. For the first time that evening, he had no clever answer. Nia placed the documents on the desk. Why did you invite me? Marcus's expression changed. What? You heard me. He looked toward Talia, then back at Nia. I wanted you to see that I'd moved on. Nia nodded slowly. And you wanted me embarrassed. Marcus said nothing. Nia smiled sadly. You didn't know I had already moved on. She turned toward the door. Then Marcus said, Nia, wait. She stopped. There is something else. Nia didn't turn around. Marcus's voice trembled. The jet isn't the part you need to worry about. Nia slowly looked back. What do you mean? Marcus stepped closer. The company you think your father left you. He paused. Isn't actually the company you think it is. Nia stared at him. What does that mean? Marcus looked at Talia. Talia lowered her eyes. Then Marcus whispered, Your father didn't leave you 32%. Nia waited. Marcus's next words landed like a blow. He left you control. Silence. Nia's eyes widened. Control of what? Marcus looked toward the window. Beyond it, her private jet sat beneath the fading evening sky. Then he said, Everything. And suddenly, Nia understood why Talia had looked frightened when she first took her hand. This engagement party had never been about humiliating her. It had been built around a secret Marcus had spent years trying to keep buried. And whatever her father had left behind was powerful enough to make the man who once told her she wasn't built for his world terrified of her discovering that she had been part of that world all along. But there was one question Nia still couldn't answer. Why would her father hide it from her? And why had Marcus waited until the night of his engagement to finally reveal it? Nia looked down at the old brass key hanging from her handbag. For the first time in 24 years, she wondered what had opened. The question followed Nia out of the office. It followed her past the ballroom, past the guests who were suddenly pretending not to stare, past the red carpet, past the aircraft. She stopped beside the jet. Charles, her pilot, noticed her expression. Ms. Bennett? Nia looked at him. Do you know anything about my father? Charles hesitated. That hesitation told her enough. You do. He looked toward the aircraft. I've heard stories. What stories? Charles lowered his voice. Your father was respected in aviation. I know that. No, he said. I mean really respected. Nia waited. He helped design safety systems used by several regional carriers. She stared at him. That was never in his obituary. Your father didn't want publicity. Why? Charles looked uncomfortable. Because he had been involved in something much bigger. Nia's stomach tightened. What? Charles shook his head. You need to speak to the person who kept the records. Who? He looked back toward the building. Your father's old partner. Her father's old partner was Samuel Price, 72 years old. Retired aviation engineer. And the last person Nia expected to see that night. He was sitting alone in the back of the ballroom. When Nia approached him, he stood slowly. Nia. She stopped. You know me? Samuel smiled sadly. I knew your father. You knew him well? Like a brother. Nia sat beside him. My father left me something. Samuel looked at her. I know. Why didn't you tell me? Because your father made me promise. What promise? That I would tell you only when you were old enough to understand what he had sacrificed. Nia looked toward Marcus. He died when I was 12. Samuel nodded. You weren't ready then. I was 35 when Marcus and I divorced. Samuel's eyes softened. And you still weren't ready. Nia looked down. For what? Samuel reached into his jacket. He pulled out an old photograph. Nia recognized the building immediately. It was an aircraft hangar. But beneath the photograph was a handwritten note. She read it. For Nia, when she finally understands that a person's value is not determined by who stands beside them, her eyes filled. That sounds like him. Samuel smiled. He loved you. Then why did he leave me nothing? He left you everything. Nia looked up. Samuel pointed toward the photograph. That hangar belonged to him. She frowned. Bennett Aviation? Samuel shook his head. No. He tapped the photograph. North Star Air Systems. Nia's eyes widened. She knew the name. Every aviation professional knew it. North Star had developed aircraft logistics technology used by hospitals, emergency agencies, and private carriers. It was worth far more than she had imagined. "You're telling me my father founded North Star?" Samuel nodded. "But he didn't keep it." "Why?" "Because your father knew what happened when power became more important than people." Nia listened. "Your grandfather had built a successful aviation business. But when your father took over, he wanted to modernize it. He believed the company should serve communities, not simply shareholders." "What happened?" "He fought with the board." Samuel's voice lowered. "They tried to remove him." "And did they?" "No." Samuel looked at her. "He sold his controlling interest." Nia stared at him. "To whom?" "Bennett Family Holdings." Her breath caught. "The company Marcus inherited." Samuel nodded. "But your father negotiated one condition." "What condition?" "That part of the company would remain in trust for his daughter." Nia looked down. "For me." "For you." She closed her eyes. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" "Because your father believed money, given to a child without preparation, could become a curse." Nia whispered. "He could have told me." "Yes." Samuel didn't defend him. He should have. That honesty made Nia look at him. Then why did he keep it secret? Because he was afraid you'd spend your life chasing what he spent his life trying to escape. Nia thought about that. She thought about her childhood, her father's tired hands, the small apartment, the old car, the weekends when he disappeared for hours to repair aircraft. She had always believed he had been poor. Maybe he hadn't been poor. Maybe he had simply chosen a different definition of rich. Marcus found Nia outside an hour later. She stood alone beside the jet. "You're leaving?" "Yes." He stopped. "I never wanted this." Nia looked at him. "You invited me." "I know. You wanted to embarrass me." He looked down. "Yes." The admission hurt more than an excuse would have. "Why?" Marcus took a long breath. "Because I hated how quickly you stopped needing me." Nia said nothing. "When we were married, I felt important." "You were important?" "No." He shook his head. "I felt powerful." Nia watched him. "And when you started your company, people respected you. You made decisions without asking me. You stopped coming home worried about whether I approved. I was trying to build something." "I know." He looked at her. "And I thought if I made you feel small again, I'd feel big." Nia's expression softened slightly. "That is the most honest thing you've said to me in years." Marcus looked toward the jet. "Did you really build all this yourself?" "Not alone." He smiled bitterly. "That's what I always wanted you to say." "What?" "That you needed someone." Nia shook her head. "Everyone needs someone, Marcus. That doesn't mean they need to be controlled." He looked away. "I loved you. I believe you." "Do you?" "Yes." He looked surprised. "But love without respect becomes something else." Marcus nodded slowly. "I know." Inside the ballroom, Talia was waiting. Nia approached her. "You knew." "Yes." "You knew before the engagement?" "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wasn't sure who I could trust." Nia studied her. "What about Marcus?" Talia looked toward him. "I love him." Then she sighed. "But loving someone doesn't mean pretending they're right." Nia smiled faintly. "You're not what I expected." "Neither are you." They both laughed quietly. Then Talia handed Nia a small envelope. "This was delivered to me before the party." Nia opened it. Inside was a letter. The handwriting was unmistakable. Her father's. She unfolded it with trembling fingers. "My dearest Nia, if you're reading this, then someone has finally told you the truth." Nia stopped. Her eyes filled with tears. She continued. "I am sorry I made decisions about your future without asking you. I believed protecting you meant hiding things from you. I was wrong." Her breathing became unsteady. "The trust was never created to make you wealthy. It was created to give you a choice." Nia read the next line. "If you want nothing to do with the company, walk away. Then, if you want to lead it differently." She stared at the paper. The next sentence changed everything. But before you decide, look at what they did to the employees after I left. Nia looked up. What employees? Talia stepped closer. That's the part nobody told you. The following morning, Nia entered Bennett Family Holdings. Not as Marcus's ex-wife, not as an angry shareholder, not as a woman arriving to reclaim something. She entered as the person who had finally discovered what her father had trusted her to protect. The company's employees were nervous. Some had worked there for decades. Others had heard rumors about the ownership dispute. Nia spent 3 days reading documents. She discovered that the company had been losing money despite reporting profits. She discovered that several divisions had been sold. She discovered employees had been laid off, while executive bonuses increased. And she discovered something else. Marcus hadn't created the problem. He had inherited it. But he had been too afraid to admit he couldn't fix it. That was why he'd been desperate to appear successful. That was why the engagement party mattered so much. He wasn't simply showing off a new fiancé. He was trying to convince everyone, including himself, that his life was still under control. Nia called him into her office. You should have told me. Marcus sat across from her. I was ashamed. You should have trusted me. I didn't think you'd help. Nia looked at him. Why? Because after the divorce, I assumed you hated me. I was angry. I know. But I never wanted you destroyed. Marcus's eyes lowered. That's the difference between us. Nia paused. What difference? You learned how to leave without needing me to lose. That sentence stayed with her. Months passed. Nia did not take control of the company immediately. Instead, she created an independent board. She protected employees who had been treated unfairly. She sold 2 unnecessary executive properties. She redirected money into the company's struggling logistics division. She brought in professionals who were willing to tell her when she was wrong. And she refused to fire Marcus. People questioned her. Why keep him? Nia answered simply. Because accountability is not the same as revenge. Marcus eventually stepped down from his executive position. He didn't fight her. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He started a smaller consulting business. For the first time in his adult life, he had to build something without using Nia's shadow as a measuring stick. Talia stayed with him. But their relationship changed. She told him plainly that she would not marry a man who needed to be admired more than he needed to be honest. Marcus accepted that. Their wedding was smaller than the engagement party. No private airfield, no enormous guest list, no performance, just family. And when Nia received the invitation, she went. Not because she wanted Marcus back. Because she no longer needed the past to hurt before she could move forward. 1 year after the engagement party, Nia returned to the same airfield. Her jet waited nearby. But this time, she wasn't flying away. She was standing beside a group of young Black aviation students. North Star had launched a scholarship program in her father's name. The first recipient was a 17-year-old girl named Amara. Amara stared at the aircraft. Is that really yours? Nia smiled. Yes. Can I go inside? Of course. The girl climbed the stairs. Nia followed. Before entering, she looked across the runway. She remembered the night Marcus had invited her to his engagement party as a joke. She remembered how everyone had stared. She remembered thinking that the jet had changed everything. But now she understood. It hadn't. The jet had only revealed something that had already happened. She had changed long before anyone noticed. Her father had been right about one thing. The trust had never been about making her rich. It had been about giving her a choice. And the greatest choice Nia made wasn't taking control of the company. It was refusing to let the people who had underestimated her decide what she became afterward. 2 years later, Marcus sent her a message. It was short. I finally understand what you meant that night. Nia stared at the screen. A second message appeared. You weren't trying to prove you were better than me. You were trying to become someone you respected. Nia smiled. She didn't reply immediately. Then she typed, I hope you're becoming that person too. Marcus responded, I'm trying. That was enough. Not reconciliation. Not romance. Not another chance. Just 2 people finally understanding that sometimes the healthiest ending isn't getting back what you lost. It's becoming grateful that you survived losing it. Nia placed the phone down. Outside her office window, the private jet waited. She thought about the first time Marcus had seen it. He had assumed it represented everything she had gained, but Nia knew better. The jet was only metal, glass, engines, and machinery. The real victory had happened much earlier. The night she stopped believing his definition of her. The night she stopped asking whether she was enough. The night she finally understood that being underestimated could hurt you for a while, but it didn't have to define you. And when Nia walked onto the runway that evening, she wasn't thinking about Marcus. She wasn't thinking about Talia. She wasn't thinking about the engagement party. She was thinking about her father, about the letter, about the choice he had left her, and about the life she had chosen for herself. Not the life people expected. Not the life that looked impressive from a distance. Her life. And for the first time, that was more than enough. Sometimes the greatest victory is not proving someone wrong. It is becoming so secure in who you are that their opinion no longer determines your worth. Nia inherited an opportunity, but she earned her freedom by choosing what that opportunity would mean. Forgiveness does not always restore a relationship. It can simply release you from needing the past to change before you can move forward.